Big Brother Biden is back with a vengeance. The censorship happy crew over at the White House aren't too thrilled with Twitter's new owner, Elon Musk. You see, they're used to colluding with big tech in order to censor Americans and whatever they deem misinformation. But the world's richest man actually sticks to his free speech principles. So the White House has this warning.
This is something that we're certainly keeping an eye on. And look, we have always been very clear, and that when it comes to social media platforms, it is their responsibility to make sure that when it comes to misinformation, when it comes to the hate that we're seeing, that they take action, that they continue to take action. Again, we're all keeping a close eye on this.
But here's why the White House is so worried. Elon Musk says he's preparing to release sensitive Twitter files on free speech suppression. Musk calling the threat from Biden's goons messed up and also tweeting this. This is a battle for the future of civilization. If free speech is lost, even in America, tyranny is all that lies ahead. And top Republican leader Kevin McCarthy thinks Elon's critics need to back off.
That is offensive to me. Government's going to go after someone that wants to have free speech? What do they have to look at Twitter about? Do they want to go more after American public about whether they can have an opinion on something? I think the American public have spoken on this. I think our First Amendment stands up, and I think they should stop picking on Elon Musk.
Okay, Dana, we're keeping a close eye on Twitter. Does it get any more Big Brother than that?
That's what I wrote down that the White House needs to take a step back because we know one thing for sure. They keep a very close eye on Twitter. They make all of their policies based on what they see on Twitter. Mm-hmm. And they react to Twitter constantly. And you have the chief of staff retweeting every little thing on Twitter. So that is their issue. But there is another thing that happened today. So Elon Musk announces this, that there's possibly going to be transparency on what happened on the censorship. On the same time today, Google and YouTube announced this new fact-checking global operation. They're going to have $13 million for a new partnership with Poynter Institute's National Fact-Checking Network to promote more accurate information online. Now, maybe it's going to be great, but I have a feeling that you will have a lot of conservative sites say, well, wait, we can't even get on Google search results. So everybody is afraid that something else is happening on the other side. So I do think more transparency is great. If that's going to engender trust and more free speech, that's really good. The White House, I don't think they need to be keeping a close eye on it because that's actually the problem in the first place. That's why we have that one issue on COVID where you have the White House now, some of the former employees having to give testimony about whether they were talking to the big tech companies to have them censor things online about COVID. So it's coming back to bite them.
Greg, does anything get more fascist than the termination of free speech?
Oh, I can think of some things, but that's for another time. I want to comment on what you just said. They pay attention to Twitter so much that they're taking it so hard because they fear that they're going to lose their crutch. Their news and their opinions are created by Twitter trends, which are kind of created by a loud minority of time-wasting shut-ins. And that dictates their opinions, right? And if you didn't like to think, Twitter would do that for you. And now what you're seeing is all of those unoriginal thoughts may go away. And where are they going to? Right? You're noticing if you're on Twitter, you notice that it's a lot more fun lately. And it seems like the angriest people have migrated to Mastodon, which is the left-wing version of Twitter. And they are now censoring each other. They're banning each other. So they took their own weird practices with them. And what's left on Twitter is kind of a more freeing. And yes, maybe there might be something there that is disagreeable, but that's part of speech. And I think this is my last point. The reason why I think the government and the media don't like somebody who's widening the lanes of free speech is because they defined disagreeableness as hate speech and hate speech as crime. Therefore, disagreeable speech, when it's on Twitter, makes free speech a crime. So, right, free speech allows for disagreeable speech, and you call that hate speech, then freedom of speech is in danger of being called hate speech. We talked about this for years. We said this is where it was going.
Bezos is threatening, Apple is threatening to block Twitter from the App Store. What's that all about?
So Apple won't do business with Twitter, but they'll do business with the communist Chinese. That tells you a lot about Apple. I've noticed a little difference in Twitter. I've noticed there's less disinformation, there's less hate, and there's less liberals on Twitter. I wonder if that's a coincidence. I do agree with the White House on two things. One is you can't allow foreign bot armies to come in and fight information warfare against the United States. It's a national security risk. Musk has that under control. But the government can't ban American free speech in the name of fighting foreign information. And that's tyrannical. And also, if I was running Twitter, I wouldn't want lots of people saying, kill whites, kill cops, kill blacks. You don't want that on your private platform. So you got to suppress that kind of speech. But to use an analogy based off the World Cup, the White House is kind of like a soccer player that flops. You say one critical thing and say, they're twisting and writhing. You're saying you're putting my life in danger. This is a death threat. No, I just barely tickled you. And that's what they're trying to do with hate speech. Anything critics say, hate speech, we're all going to die. Now, what they're trying to do with Musk, they're trying to make him toxic. And they're trying to launch boycotts against him. But he has the moral high ground because free speech is above all that. And he's winning the PR war because he's funny. And that's his greatest asset is he's ridiculing the establishment and they look sensitive and square. And he's enjoying himself in that fight. And that's what people see, and it's endearing.
You know, Jessica, Twitter is a private company. Where does the government get off saying, we're going to monitor this and we're going to watch it? And just from a criminal justice perspective, you investigate crimes. You don't investigate people and companies. What is the crime so far?
Well, that's why we're only keeping an eye on the situation. But there is a long history of tech companies working with the government to make sure that dangerous things don't happen. And that's really important. And the COVID-19 misinformation policy started under the Trump administration. It was in early 2020 when there was tons of bad information floating around, and Trump officials worked with Twitter, and then Biden took over, and then Biden officials worked with Twitter. The same thing goes on with YouTube.
Fauci worked with Twitter. He's not a Trump official. He's been there for 80,000 years.
Okay, but he's whatever. Everyone knows that Fauci served in 8 administrations, and one of them was Donald Trump's, and one of them is Joe Biden's, and he also worked for all the guys that came before him. So let's be clear about that. When you say that Elon Musk is winning the PR battle, at the rate that he's losing advertisers, he's not winning anything. He still needs to be profitable. That was his goal, right, in taking over this. He thought he could make it better, and he thought that he could make it produce more money.
The advertising model is always a challenge when you're dealing with users, subscribers, or viewers. That's true, but he's getting way more users than he's ever had.
Sure, but
yeah, and so you go for a pay model. You know, that's what a lot of successful companies do, Jessica. You know, stay after class. We're going to talk about the economics of Twitter.
I can't wait, but I have to be somewhere. The whole Mastodon thing I find incredibly funny. Like all these people that I follow posting, you know, if it becomes unsafe for us here, this is where you can find me.
Yeah.
It's not that serious. Twitter is the only social media that I have. I really enjoy it. Like if I'm doom scrolling, I'm doing it on Twitter. And if it went away in about a week, we would all be okay, right? Its main function is to get you up-to-date news information, at least for people who work in the business that we do, and majority of the people that we're interacting with on Twitter.
It replaced Drudge, basically, right? Before Twitter, you were always looking at Drudge, and now you
refresh.
I think, not so much for my people, but people were looking for my people. But
are you hanging out with Kanye again?
do not even. I would like to talk about that. So it'll be interesting to see when all of these people who have been banned, and I know Kanye was only suspended for a couple weeks because of his anti-Semitic tweet, but it will be interesting to see how far Musk will go in terms of restoring accounts to people who are really repugnant. And I'm sure he won't bring back Nick Fuentes or Alex Jones, but that will be
repugnant versus another standard.
No, Holocaust deniers are just straight up repugnant.
Hate speech is protected by
So
the
you want
First
Nick
Amendment
Fuentes to
and the
have his account back?
Constitution and the United States Supreme Court.
Okay.
It just blanked.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.